Good afternoon, Dunkirk and Fredonia listeners, and welcome back to News at Noon. News at Noon is brought to you by Fredonia Radio Systems on WCVF 88.9 and WDVL 89.5. I'm News Director Lee Pye here today with Scott Bassett, Sara Lodespoto, Joshua Ribakove, as well as Hunter Halterman and Sports Director Matt Volz. With this top-of-the-hour update, we'll bring you the latest of SUNY Fredonia's campus news and events, sports, weather, and music, as well as national and international news. First up, let's go to the event bulletin for this week. This coming weekend is Radiothon. Fredonia Radio Systems is taking over their two stations and broadcast live for 25 straight hours. The event kicks off with the regular programming of High Noon Friday on Friday at 12 p.m., and at the top of every hour follows a radio show of either students or community members. Something you can tune into is a new biannual Radiothon show called Hot Ones, a parody of a YouTube show called Hot Ones, where FRS members eat some hot wings and answer even hotter questions. Finally, the 24-hour live broadcast ends the next day on Saturday with the Radiothon tradition of the Big Cheeseburger Challenge, where everyone in the radio booth scarfs down the largest cheeseburger you have ever seen as fast as possible. The winner gets bragging rights and a stomach full of food. Kick back and relax with us and tune in to our stations WCVF and WDVL from 12 p.m. Friday to 1 p.m. Saturday for a wild time. That's it for the information through the grapevine. Next up, we'll bring it to Scott for our latest campus news updates.
Tomorrow, May 2nd, at 12 p.m., the Oscar Student Exposition will be in the Williams Center Multipurpose Room. This annual event comes to us every spring to deliver a brilliant display from students of many, many majors. Theatrical performances, musical acts, oral presentations, poster presentations, and multimedia presentations are in store. Abigail and The Crucible are coming back to Marvel Theater this week. Yet again, both shows will be alternating showings throughout the week, with Crucible first being shown on Thursday at 7:30 and Abigail being shown on Friday at 7:30. The Theater Kids scoop: if you're going to see them, see The Crucible first. Later this Thursday, the Anime Club will be hosting a Studio Ghibli night in McEwen 209. The Studio Ghibli films are considered classics by many and are truly beautiful, not only visually, but in narrative as well. The movies start at 8 p.m. That's it for campus news. Now let's send it back to Lee.
Thanks, Scott. Next up, we have local news. United University Professions, UUP, as well as the organization Students for Fredonia, held a protest on Monday for the SUNY Fredonia budget cuts. SUNY Chancellor John King was the target of most of the criticism, which seemed to contrast the warm welcome the campus gave him only a week ago during his visit. UUP President Frederick Kowal said Andrew Cuomo attacks SUNY campuses and funding, and King is, quote, trying to finish Andrew Cuomo's dirty work, end quote. Fredonia Mayor Michael Ferguson said, quote, As Fredonia State goes, so goes the village. If they suffer, the whole area suffers. They come from all over for one of the best educations in the area. They come to Fredonia, end quote. Ferguson promised that when he visits the state capitol in a few weeks, that he'll heavily advocate for SUNY Fredonia. Chautauqua County legislator Susan Parker spoke at the rally, as well as University Senate President Bruce Simon, as well as several Fredonia students. Speaking of finances, Fiscal Affairs Ellen Luxkoyak said Monday morning that the state comptroller's office is demanding a 5-year plan for Dunkirk's finances. The $18 million in the fiscal lifeline is included in the budget that was passed in Albany. Albany is expecting Dunkirk to come up with the next 5 years of finances and budget projections. Cutting services in the city might have to happen in order for them to reach the deadline at the end of May. 4,000 Over 4,000 addresses in Chautauqua County cannot receive high-speed internet. DFT Communications will soon be bringing broadband to some of those residencies. A state environmental quality review act solution was proposed was approved for new broadband project in the Dunkirk-Fredonia area. DFD Communications was the low bidder for Zone 3, which is the Dunkirk-Fredonia area, and the 385 households without the ability to get high-speed internet are in that zone. It would cost over $1.6 million for the broadband expansion there. The company agreed to pay half, and the other half would be paid by the county, which is covered by the ARPA funds. The DFT is going to start the work sometime in May and should be finished in the fall. Charter Communications, also known as Spectrum, won the bid for the other 3 zones. They are currently trying to get the necessary matching funds for the 3,680 households left that do not have high-speed internet. That's all for your local news update. Now let's send it to the sports guy, Matt Volz.
Thanks, Lee. Fredonia softball is back at home today for a non-conference doubleheader against Nazareth. They haven't been home since April 20th when they swept Oswego in a doubleheader. The Blue Devils enter play at 11-21, looking to snap a 4-game losing streak. Additionally, this weekend's doubleheader at Buff State has been moved to Friday at noon, as it was originally scheduled for Saturday. Today's doubleheader against Nazareth will begin at 3 p.m. Fredonia baseball is on the road today for a non-conference matchup with Alfred State. They'll also be at home tomorrow to complete a doubleheader against Oswego that was rained out on Saturday. The first game of the doubleheader was suspended in the 8th inning with Oswego ahead 4-0, and that game will be resumed and finished at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow. Following the conclusion of that game, the other half of the doubleheader will be played. Fredonia enters play at 13-17, having won 4 of their last 5 games. The men's and women's track and field teams will be competing at SUNYAC Championships this weekend. It'll begin on Friday and run through Saturday with Geneseo as this year's host school. And the Freddies, Fredonia's athletic awards, are a week away, and nominations for the top athletes of the year are starting to be released. The nominees for Female Rookie of the Year are Grace Alexander of the women's basketball team, Gabby Irwin of the women's soccer team, Kylie O'Brien of the volleyball team, and Leah Kunish of the women's lacrosse team. This year's Freddie Awards will take place next Tuesday, May 7th, in Rosh Recital Hall. And the Buffalo Bandits are 4 wins away from repeating as National Lacrosse League champions, but they'll have to get through the top seed Toronto Rock in order to get back to the finals. The best of 3 semifinal series will begin at 7:30 p.m. on Friday in Toronto. Game 2 will be in Banditland on Sunday, but the start time has been moved to 5:30 p.m. The game was originally set to begin at 5 p.m. If a Game 3 is necessary, it'll be played on Saturday, May 11th at 7 p.m. in Toronto. Buffalo is looking to reach the finals for the 3rd straight year and the 4th time in the last 5 seasons. That's all for your sports update. Now let's send it to Sara with the weather.
Now here is your Northern Chautauqua weather update brought to you by Fredonia Radio Systems.
Hey y'all, today introduces May, making it hot, rising up to a sunny 76. Take some shades out and keep some water with you. I can already see the beach Instagram posts and I'm not even looking at my phone. I personally love the beach. The waves, the warm sand, everything. That could be because I'm from Long Island and I live 15-20 minutes away from the water, but that's besides the point. Take some time and watch a sunset by the beach as we lower to 54. Tomorrow becomes a little bit more cloudy, but still shapes up to be pretty warm at 66. A light breeze completes this nice weather, cooling us off a bit. See, these temperatures remind us to carry a little deodorant in your bag. You never know when you need to freshen up. If you're feeling a bit stinky, pick up one of those tiny spray deodorant samples to carry around. Or, I actually always carry one in my bag, so I don't mind you using it. I actually carry a lot of little necessities, so just ask and I probably have it. A weather girl always got to be prepared, at least with a jacket later tomorrow evening when it shapes up to be in the upper 40s. That's it for your 2-day weather. Keep listening. I'll be back with the rest of your weekend forecast. For now, let's take it to Lee for a local music update.
The radio show The Local Lowdown is hosting a show at the Creek House. Bands like Pilot Field, Previous Love, Early Worm, and Inphobia are performing in the house on May 4th. Doors are at 8 p.m. and music is at 9 p.m. You can DM at Creek House IG on Instagram for the location of the event. And Last Call Entertainment is hosting their last show of the semester called BJ's Fest. The bands Magazine Beach, Robbery Club, Gas Station, The Weather Might Say Otherwise, and B Roller Casper will be performing at BJ's at 51 West Main Street in Fredonia on May 9th. Doors are at 9 p.m. and music is at 10 p.m. That's all I have for music news this week. Now let's bring it to Josh for national and international news.
As thousands of students across the U.S. protest the war in Gaza, many college campuses are calling on police to restore order. Students at Columbia University in particular began occupying Hamilton Hall on Monday night. In a firm response yesterday, New York police used an armored vehicle at Columbia University to push a bridge into a window of Hamilton Hall, using the bridge to enter the hall and retake the building. New York police and Columbia University officials are facing criticism from the intense force used by police to put a stop to the demonstration. One unnamed student said, quote, "Myself and many other students have just felt horror seeing the swiftness with which the NYPD came and deployed themselves onto our campus." End quote. Dozens of students were arrested at Columbia University, and dozens more have been arrested at the City College of New York, under a mile away. The City University of New York published a statement on their website this morning in which they wrote, quote, "Over the past 6 days, a series of violent incidents occurred at CCNY that put public safety at risk. This includes a fire Sunday night at the Marshak Science Building caused by use of a flare gun that brought FDNY to campus, clashes with public safety, and Tuesday night, an attempted break-in at Shepherd Hall and a break-in at the administration building that included the vandalizing of offices and smashing glass doors." End quote. With protests increasing in intensity to the point where property is being damaged and people can get hurt, a police response was used to put a stop to acts of violence and vandalism. Today, Israel reopened the primary border crossing on the northern edge of the Gaza Strip, recognizing U.S. demands to do more to address the humanitarian crisis. With the Erez crossing opening, aid trucks have begun moving food and supplies into Gaza after months of waiting for the crossing to reopen. The crossing was initially closed since it was destroyed during the October 7th attacks from Hamas preceding the war. Colonel Moshe Tetro, the head of Israel's Coordination and Liaison Administration for Gaza, has stated that he is hoping for the crossing to be open every day, with the goal of moving about 500 aid trucks into Gaza daily. Famine has plagued Gaza for months, and many civilians have died or are dying as a result of Israel not allowing aid in the country. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is planning to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug, a historically significant shift that may change how states control the substance. The administration still must have their proposal reviewed by the White House Office of Management and Budget in order to have the medical use of cannabis recognized. However, this will not legalize the substance for recreational use. Pending White House approval, marijuana would be considered a Schedule III drug, reclassing it from its current status as a Schedule I drug that is considered more dangerous. Consumers of the bud can likely expect the proposal to be approved, as Joe Biden has consistently supported legalizing the use of marijuana as medicine. As a Schedule III drug, marijuana would be subject to rules that allow for medical use, but as a controlled substance, it would still not be legalized for recreational use nationwide. That does it for your national and international news. Now let's bring it to Sara for the rest of our weather.
While we have a chance on Friday to reach up to a sunny 80, the thunderstorm strips away the nice weather. With all this sun from the week, I guess we can use a little bit of rain, right? The dandelions across campus have to get watered somehow. Speaking of dandelions, did you know that a garden weed is actually only considered a weed in the eye of the beholder? Basically, if a plant spreads out of control in a location that doesn't meet the person's preferences, for example, like a green lawn, and is unwanted, it's considered a weed. So, if your ex likes to be a little green, I think it's perfectly acceptable to classify him as a weed. Anyway, Friday night shifts into rainy evening, dropping to the low 60s. Saturday holds heavy cloud cover and a high of 69. Even though it's going to be miserable, something that I'm particularly happy about is that this day falls on National Orange Juice Day. Orange juice has to be my favorite juice. But the real question is, pulp or no pulp? I know you might be hating me for this, but I like the pulp. For you pulp haters, have you actually eaten an orange before? That is literally what the pulp is. I've never understood why people are so against it, because if anything, the pulp makes it more like juice. So while I'm drinking my orange juice with the pulp, the nighttime becomes very windy as we descend to the upper 50s. Sunday reminds us that not every day in Western New York has to be miserable, as we get a mix of clouds and sun, rising to 69. The clouds dissipate later into the evening to show the waning crescent in the upper 50s. That's it for your weekend forecast. Let's take it right back to Lee.
That'll wrap up for today's edition of News at Noon. Campus News is written by Scott Bassett. Local news for this broadcast is prepared by Lee Pye. Weather is presented by Sara Lodespoto. Sports is presented by Matt Volz. Music is prepared by Lee Pye. National and international news is prepared by Joshua Ribakove. And finally, board operations for this broadcast are performed by Hunter Halterman. Thanks for tuning in to News at Noon. Join us every Monday and Wednesday at 12 p.m. on WCVF 88.9 and WDVL 89.5. From all of us at Fredonia Radio Systems, have a wonderful day.